and then we buy the equity. But when you're, and I'm talking to your customers, how do you go about constructing that portfolio in a general sense? What do you look for first?
Yep, it's a good question. We approach our portfolio construction the same process for all of our clients. That's not saying they get the same portfolios, just the same process.
Yep.
We always start by looking at strategy first. What's the right strategy to achieve their objectives? What are they trying to do and get out of the process?
So hang on, if I say I want 10% of my $2 million, do you say you're going about this the whole wrong way?
We had this conversation last time, and
well, I just want to remind the viewers.
I don't get
I want to give you a second chance to say it.
I don't get people walking into my office and saying I want a 10% return. That's not how the process works.
Do they say I want to keep my $2 million and I want to see what we're going to do with this?
No. Yeah. What happens is they clearly articulate what it is they're trying to achieve as far as objectives, outcomes, family.
So give me an example of that. Is that I want to play golf? Do they come in and say, look, I want to play golf and bridge and I want to have a holiday once a quarter?
Yeah, so it generally comes around a requirement for income of some description, a time frame of some description to start not working or requiring the income for. It generally looks around some points in time where they need some lump sum capital for purchasing new cars, paying off debt, paying for university, big round the world trips, and that's the strategic part.
Yep.
Once the strategy's been sorted, we then look at the structuring. So what's the best structure for them to achieve these outcomes? Now that's all around efficacy and protection, essentially.
And how hard is it to meet these? The customer comes in, Rudy, and he says, right, I want a new car, I want this, I want that, I've got X amount of money, and I want to pay off the school. How easy are people meeting these requirements? Because I feel that we're in a very low interest rate environment and it has a whole different play out in people's retirement in general. Forgetting the challenger, look into the distance and we're all scared.
But that's the point. Before we can start talking about 10% returns or 8% returns, we need to make sure that the objectives are actually realistic and achievable. If they're not, it's a conversation we have around readjusting expectations or talking about trade-offs.
So what are you looking at? Are you saying it's a 5%? I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
But the numbers drive the conversation when they come in and say, I want a new boat. In your mind, where are you thinking that the tipping point number? Is it 5%, 6%? In terms of you've got to keep working because you will never be able to produce more than 6%? Is
that could be an outcome? Absolutely.
But in your head, what are you thinking in this environment? Is it 6? Is it 5? Is it 8?
No. It's horses for courses. I did a plan last week for a new client who wanted an outcome to retire in 5 years' time.
Yep.
And after doing our numbers and what they were going to do ordinarily with contributions and the like, we worked out they needed a 4% return.
Right. 4% return?
1.5% real, 2% real.
Okay.
Really? That's including. I was about to ask. That's on top of inflation.
No. So that's including CPI.
Yeah.
So I'm a stern believer that if someone doesn't need to take more risk than is necessary, why would you?
Oh yeah.
Why would you? So the conversation comes back around to risk. What does it mean? What are the outcomes? What are the implications?
Now we have a caller.